In the wake of the Christchurch terrorist attacks, there was lots of criticism of the way social media responded, particularly in terms of hosting some hateful and violent material in the lead up to. So how should they respond? Well, Canberra has come back with an answer. There's new legislation about how social media companies are supposed to respond to violent and hateful material online, and it happened very fast. So to catch us up on what happened, we have Matt Hopkins, gaming and technology editor for Pedestrian, and Ariel Bogle, technology writer for the ABC Science Unit. As I mentioned, Ariel, it happened really fast this week. So just give me the basics of what the legislation involves.
These laws are a direct reaction to what happened during the Christchurch terrorist attack. So during that attack on the mosques in New Zealand, the perpetrator live streamed what he was doing for about 17 minutes on Facebook. It stayed up even longer than that before Facebook finally took it down, and it's sort of been living on the internet in different iterations since then. So, of course, there was a strong reaction to that all over the world, but here in Australia too, the government vowed to do something about the tech platforms and the way they let anybody share this type of horrific content. And that resulted in this bill, Criminal Code Amendment, Sharing of Abhorrent Violent Material Bill, 2019.
Catchy. So catchy.
So I don't think anybody in Parliament or probably in Australia at large thinks that we should do nothing in response to Christchurch. But the controversy is really about how this bill was put together and the potential effects it could have.
From what I've seen, it just seems really, really vague as well. Like they want to be able to jail social media executives if they don't act fast enough, but they don't give a time frame on.
And I'm fine with jailing
enough.
social media executives, but mostly because my post's not getting enough engagement, and that they are at fault for that.
Well,
Yeah, damn
Labor
right.
says they're miswritten so that they wouldn't really have the effect of being able to jail any executives. That's their opinion of the legislation that they helped pass.
I was going to say.
So to give you a timeline, these laws were, they've been sort of cooking, I suppose, for a little while, but they were formally announced Saturday. They were introduced into the Senate on Wednesday. They passed the lower house on Thursday. Google, Facebook, Twitter, these companies are represented here by a lobbying group called Digi. They said they only got the bill, Tuesday. Labor got the bill around that time. And on the floor of the Senate on Wednesday night, when I was watching, the Greens and some of the independent senators hadn't even been given the text of the bill they were asked to vote on. So this is the kind of what do you call that? Omnishambles.
Omnishambles, yeah. Omnishambles.
So the bill proposes a few different things. I mean, one thing that it does is it demands that hosting services, streaming services, but also internet service providers expeditiously, is the term, remove violent, abhorrent content from their platforms. And if they don't do that in an expeditious way, they are, liable for an offence. And violent, abhorrent content is physical violence in the way the bill's written. It's murder, rape, terrorist attack. And one of the pushback from the social media companies is that it doesn't address hate speech and that type of content, which is another thing has been a strong topic of conversation in the wake of Christchurch. It also demands that these companies tell the Australian Federal Police if they come across such content that's occurred in Australia or been filmed here. And it also allows the eSafety Commissioner to notify companies of abhorrent content. This is another sort of controversial area because it presumes that when the notice is given to a tech company that they've been recklessly keeping it on their platforms. So it sort of pre-presumes guilt on the part of the platforms for having this content in the first place. Sure, and even on this program, we've been criticising companies like YouTube and Facebook on, demanding that they be responsible for what happens on their platforms and the kind of content they promote. But we need to acknowledge too that there is so much content out there.
Exactly.
And presuming that they're recklessly keeping it on their platform is a matter of sort of legal debate. The Law Council says this could be a problem. But in general, do we want that type of antagonistic relationship between the Australian government and tech companies, or should they be trying to work together a little more harmoniously? Would that lead to a better outcome? These are the kinds of debates happening around this bill.
Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook himself, has popped up in an opinion piece in the Washington Post where he's almost asking for legislation. Why is Mark Zuckerberg asking for this stuff?
Feels to me like he's trying to take his hands off that kind of debate from Facebook because it always seems to be
It always starts with
Facebook.
Yeah,
it always
ends up
starts with
on
Facebook or ends in Facebook.
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg somehow always involved. It's almost like he's throwing his hands up and going, you know what, I'm done. Let's just regulate it. Let's set up a third-party body, I guess you would call it. It's probably a good thing too, right? Because we probably do need an independent body there to kind of look at social media and how it's doing and not leave it so much up to the hands of the people who run it.
I mean, I can see why Facebook might want to say at this point, after years now of sustained criticism on a whole range of topics, please come in, please just freaking tell us what to do at this point. But I guess it's also pretty easy to ask for regulation, global regulation on things like harmful content, election integrity, privacy, and data portability, and just wait while the world takes
its own sweet time.
Takes its own sweet time. In the meantime, you just keep doing as you've been doing.
There is lots more of this in the podcast. If you download this show, we're also talking about virtual reality and how virtual reality might actually be able to help charities and not-for-profits and make you care about things that you might not necessarily want to care about. There's a fantastic interview about that on Download This Show, which you can find on whichever podcasting app you choose to use. My name is Mark Fennell, and we'll see you next week.